Welcome, everybody, to the Screaming Boy Podcast, episode number 10, version 10.0, or version 10.0, version 2.0. I'm going back to bed. Show over. Good night.
10 versions. Oh, man. I don't know.
Failed.
I don't know.
9 other times.
We just keep redoing the same thing over and over. The definition of insanity, not realizing that we're not changing anything at all.
Worse. So, well, happy Halloween to everyone out there. Happy Halloween to you, Mr. Starcher.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. I'm here with Jesse Starcher, host of the Source Material Podcast and one of our co-hosts here on the Screaming Boy Network, Screaming Boy Podcast Network. Yeah, that. And
version 10.0.
Version 10.0. But we are, well, I don't know about you, and I'm excited because it's Monday is Halloween, so this will probably hopefully be out by then. It definitely will be out by then. I'm going to kick my own butt to do it. And it's Halloween is one of my favorite, if not, it's a tie between Halloween and Christmas with me.
Sure.
Halloween is a little more, I like it a little more sometimes because it's always, I don't know, it's always been a thing with me. You know, you get to dress up and be something or someone or anything else you want for the night, and tricks and treats and ghouls and goblins and all that stuff. I'm not into some of the things that are that happen on All Hallows Eve, but I get into it because I've always enjoyed the zombie movies and I've always enjoyed the scary movies and things like that. So, what about you, Jesse? Have you? I mean, like, is Halloween a thing for you?
You know, I don't think it's near as big as a thing for me as it is for you, and I think a lot of that is because, well, I've got kids. I've got 3 kids. You'd think it would be. You'd think it would be. We don't exactly live on a big street where kids are coming up and down, which I think that would have a very different impact on whether I really enjoyed the Halloween season or not, because I do a lot better sitting in one spot making kids smile instead of walking around.
Right.
Because I tend to lose my smile after about the first half mile. Yeah, that's just, hey, I know there's a lot of miles and smiles, but anyway, that's a bad joke because there is a mile and smile. Think about it. It's there.
Thinking about it.
You see the smile and you see the mile. All right. Anyway, no, I seriously, I think I can remember as a kid, one of my favorite things to do was to hand out candy instead of going to try and go get it. So I have not lived in a house that's given out candy for probably over 10 years, if not more than that, man.
Really?
So,
yeah.
I don't know what your situation is. You live in a neighborhood with...
I do now. I just recently bought a house in a nice neighborhood. I live in a circle. Karen.
No roads in, no roads out. Just a circle. That'd be awesome.
Shut up.
Jetpacks
to get where you're going. Now that would be awesome. I bought a house here. And
you and the dog.
Well, yeah. I bought a house here, and I'm actually in a neighborhood now where there's kids and there's activity. I lived in an apartment complex. Ever since I've moved to North Carolina, I lived in a house when I first got here for about a year with a bunch of other guys, but this house was secluded. And it literally had no one around it, just a couple of businesses and railroad tracks. So ain't nobody coming to this house on Halloween, because this was the house you avoided on Halloween. This was the house that you dared your friends to go sit in Halloween. This is what this house looked like, especially since we never mowed the grass and it got up to about waist high. I swear there was creatures living in it, like ninjas and velociraptors and stuff. I mean, that's how high it was at one point. So and then I moved to apartments, and some most of the time in the first apartment I lived in, I was working on Halloween, and I never got to hand anything out. Uh, and then I moved to another apartment building where they didn't pass out candy on Halloween. I think it was like foreboding, you didn't solicit, on even on Halloween, so
They
I never
have
really
like a
got,
bad experience or something.
I don't know. I just never got any kids. And even though kids lived in my, in my building and around me. And, so I would invite friends to bring their kids over, and I would have something special for them if they wanted. It's like, hey, if you're out and about, stop by the apartment, and I would have, if I knew they were coming, I'd have like Halloween cups, like drinking cups, big old cups, and fill it with candy and something, Halloweenish, something, pencils or something. Just as a, if they came all that way, I was just going to give them a couple of pieces of candy and send them on their way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always have a big bowl of candy waiting, just in case. And nobody ever came around. So I had to suffer through eating the candy. And
Suffer.
Yeah, suffer, quote unquote. So I always supplemented by going to different haunts, and things like that, which I haven't gotten to really enjoy this year too much. Last year, I always, I hit up the Hollywood Horror Show, which was absolutely fantastic. So if you're anywhere near,
I remember that, yes.
Yeah, if you're anywhere near Burlington, North Carolina, you got to go see the Hollywood Horror Show. It's going on right now. It always goes on after Halloween, but I guarantee you, if you go before Halloween, especially this weekend, you're going to get a show. So, so I would do that. I would dress up a little bit and things like that, and go to on Halloween, I would dress up and go to these haunts, because you'd always see other people dressed up. I would never really go all out or anything. Just a little thing, zombie hunter or whatever.
Yeah.
Last year I threw on some, a jacket, a backpack, and strapped some things, like a foam hammer. It was a Walking Dead hammer that I bought at a Halloween store. It was Tyrese's hammer, that had blood on it and stuff like that. Yeah. Just went, like, oh yeah, you're like a zombie hunter. You're like the Last of Us kind of thing. Yeah, actually I am. Very good eye. Oh, and I also had I had Daryl's. There were two things that I bought at the Halloween store, and it was both of them were Walking Dead. One was Tyrese's. Three things I forgot because somebody broke it and I got so mad at him. I bought Tyrese's hammer. I bought Daryl's necklace, ear necklace. He had zombie ears on.
Oh, wow.
And then they also had, but it wasn't a Walking Dead branded one, but it was a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire.
Ooh,
yeah,
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it wasn't Negan's, but it was. I'm sure that they got the idea from the comic book, because he hadn't hit the small screen yet. So I would just do stuff like that, and like last year. This year, I actually have a community around me. So I got lazy and didn't mow my grass all of this month, and so it's kind of overgrown and looking weird. And so I went to a craft store and bought a bunch of styrofoam gravestones, and stuck them in the yard. Some hands that stick up out of their yard, like they're zombies raising up, and hung a ghost-looking thing in my tree out in my front yard, and just decorated for Halloween.
Yeah.
And so it's giving me, kind of just decorating a little bit. So it gives me an idea if anybody's coming around this year, I can go all out, because I want to put make boards out of foam and put them all over my windows, stuff like that, and make it just do stuff like that. And so that's how much I love Halloween, and just, it's all about seeing these kids. I'm going to sit in my driveway with a bowl full of candy and hand out candy and stuff like that. I get into it. I really like it. I like seeing the kids, having fun and dressing up and stuff like that, as long as they do it. So it kind of ruins it for me if you come around and sweatpants and a t-shirt and say trick or treat. No, at least go put some vampire teeth in or something, man. So
yeah.
I've always loved Halloween. Ever since I was a little kid. Was how like you said, as a kid, you said you like to hand out candy. So did you do trick or treat as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I did plenty of. I think I stopped right around, I would say 10 or 11 years old. I think
Wow.
that's probably when I stopped.
I pushed it all the way up to 13, man.
Well,
When I turned 13, that's when I stopped.
I'm trying to think of. We'd moved out to the country again. Like I said, when we moved out to the country, it was, going in town. Well, I could go in town and hang out with my family and watch them go around and walk around town, and I just wasn't into it. After doing that, and I could stay home and play Nintendo, I'm gonna stay home and play Nintendo. Unfortunately, that was the way I rolled. You talking though reminded me of the last time I actually got to hand out candy, and that was at my job.
Okay.
I worked at the arcade, and I don't know if you've ever been to a mall on Halloween, but I know our mall up here does something special for the kids every Halloween, and that's where they just line up and go to store and dress up, and it's all inside. Don't have to worry about the weather. It's kind of nice, and they the kids dress up, go store to store, and get candy. And you want to know what my costume was one year?
What?
Okay. I'm about the laziest. I'm trying to find pictures of what I dressed up as a few years back. I'll find that here in a second, because that was probably the last costume I actually put any effort into. But anyway, I'm about the laziest that can be when it comes to creating something, but I put something together.
Okay.
And I wore a nice white shirt. I think I had a tie and some khaki pants, and I went as Drew Carey. Had a nice pair of glasses. And then, now wait, the girl that was working with me that night she was a witch, painted her face green, all that stuff, but she had a witch's hat. Now this was 2001 or 2000. It was probably 2001 or 2002, probably 2002. So I grabbed the hat, put the witch's hat on my head, and became Drew Carey Potter.
Oh,
someone give it up right here.
Nice.
Best costume of the night.
Adam Runyon, you have joined us.
Yeah, and I actually joined it at the perfect. I joined at the perfect time too, because that was probably the greatest costume I think I've ever heard of.
You could actually, you could go Drew Carey Potter, and then just recycle it next year, but spike your hair up or something, or wear a wig or whatever, and go as Dilbert.
Yes, I could pull it off. I'll tell you what. A lot of people always said I look like Drew Carey, which I'm not going to sit there and deny it or anything, but
jerks.
But yeah, Anyway, I'm certainly not as funny as that guy.
Oh, not to interrupt you, we did get a tweet. That guy Dave G Pie.
Oh boy,
at Dave G Pie said he said I rent a van, park it on the street, and sit inside and offer candy. And then he says,
how's that work out for him?
Actually, I dress as Roddy Piper and pass out bubblegum, which he does. And I mean, he has got the costume, man. It looks amazing. He's got the kilt, the black leather jacket, the hot rod t-shirt, and he passes out bubblegum because he is come to chew bubblegum. And I won't finish the rest.
When he runs out of bubblegum, what happens? I want to know.
Well, the kids usually cry.
Or they're on the ground and
they're on the ground. I don't know what you call that. But we Adam, what was your favorite Halloween costume that you can remember?
Oh man, my absolute favorite was I can't remember the year, but it was I think it was either early 90s or late 80s. So let's say 88 to 92. Ninja Turtles were like the big thing.
Nice.
And and I wanted to go as Leonardo. So my mom made this costume and it was the bomb. It was like this green jumpsuit. And she made a turtle shell out of like fake leather, and like you could, and she drew the little like what is octagons or the hexagons on it all over the place, and it like a backpack that I wore. And on the back of it, it had she got 2 like fake swords, and I could put them over top of the
backpack,
the shell.
Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like a legit costume, man. And like I had the elbow bands and the mask and everything. That's probably my absolute favorite one. If I ever if she has that one, I'm gonna be like, give it to me, and no other grandkid is getting this, because this is mine and mine alone, and I'm giving it to mine. My kids get to wear it, But that was probably my favorite. I don't think there's anything other than that. But my mom was really into making costumes. She doesn't do it much anymore, but like she would make costumes, and Halloween was always kind of it was a fun time. Like she never made it scary. You know what I mean? Like my parents never made it scary. It was always fun. Like we used to have like the goofy looking skeletons and that awful. As a parent, I'm sure Jesse, you can appreciate how awful the that spider web stuff is.
Oh yes,
and it's just as a parent, it's awful. As a kid, you're just like, yeah, let's put it everywhere. And as a parent,
it's
you're
draped
like,
over my mailbox right now.
Yeah, man, a mailbox is nothing compared to the. I mean, a kid can have that spread over 80,000 square feet in a matter of minutes. Oh, I hate that stuff. But it was always fun for me. Like Halloween is always fun. I
remember my favorite costume that I can remember was I had this big plastic light up, like it was like the Force Effects lightsabers that you see now for back then. Big old red Darth Vader lightsaber. It was like a light, almost like a flashlight, and you turn it on and it would glow real bright red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was just a plastic tube, so I played with that all the time. And my mom, I was carrying around, my mom dressed me head to toe in solid black. And I had this Darth Vader mask, and she went to the store. She bought the Darth Vader mask, of course. And she bought this, she couldn't find a cape. So she bought a Dracula cape, vampire cape, and cut the collar off of it and tied it around and tucked the strings in. And then she took an orange juice box, cut it in half, cut it like straight down the middle, not like it, not top half, bottom half. We're talking left and right.
Yeah.
Painted it black, and then painted, cut it up and made it look good. And then painted buttons on it.
Wow.
And I was like, she just got all into this, man.
Yeah. No Pinterest back then either. No Pinterest.
No, and I was Darth Vader with the regulator, breathing regulator on my chest,
dude.
Yeah, and everything, and I just strutted around, the whole night. And everybody's like, "Yo, that's awesome!" And I'm like, "That's right, my mom made this."
Man, they don't make costumes like they used to. Like seriously, they don't make them at all.
No, okay. I walked into a Halloween store the other day, and I was looking around at stuff. Everything is like a slutty pirate or cop, stuff like that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Halloween has turned into, and this is very apparent when you're in college, but has turned into a reason for girls to dress slutty. You know what I mean? It's like
we'll say some. We'll
but I mean,
our butts there and say it's turned into a reason for some.
Because you and I have some friends who wouldn't be caught dead in stuff like that.
I have a lot of friends.
So you are right. There are
some.
But you go to these costume stores, and let me tell you, I'm glad I don't have girls for this reason, because the only costumes that they have are like, it's like a coffee pot. Hey, I want to be a coffee pot. Well, it's a slutty coffee pot.
Oh, geez.
You know what I mean? It's like the only option.
I don't know that it's that bad, but it's pretty bad.
The oldest is going as Captain America, and the youngest is going as Iron Man.
Yeah,
cool
exactly.
costumes. But for girls, there's like, oh, I want to go, man. It's like they don't. It's like that's like the only choices they have.
There'll be a lot of Supergirl, I bet, this year.
Oh,
A lot of Supergirl, and she's pretty wholesome, in my opinion. I think she can pull off a pretty wholesome costume, and I'm glad for that because Adam, I identify with you there 100% because I've got a little girl.
Yeah, I thought
you have a girl.
Yeah,
I have a little girl, and I haven't had to worry.
Girls, you have a little girl.
Yeah. Well, I worry about the exact same thing. Luckily, that hasn't happened yet. I have this strange feeling that next year or two, she'll be wanting to wear something stupid and risque. But usually, Kira picks the strong female characters. I think last year was Katniss. Good pick.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
And my mom spoils these kids, her grandkids, and she spoils them and spoils them. So, you want it to be Katniss? Okay, let me go and find the $80 costume that has has the fletching or whatever the thing is that goes over your fingers and the bow and all this other stuff. And Caleb, she does the same thing for all the kids. Caleb's a Ghostbuster this year.
Very cool.
Yeah, what you said, Iron Man and Captain America, right, Adam?
Yeah, it's awesome. We just got my oldest costume today because I think the very last minute he changed. He was going to go Spider-Man, and he was Spider-Man. He was Spider-Man. Then on today, he was like, "No, Captain America. I'm Captain America." I mean, my youngest is the same thing. He was like, "I want to be Hulk. I want to wear a Hulk mask. I don't want to be Hulk Smash." All of a sudden, it's no, I'm gonna be Iron Man. What? Who told you? It's like. Make your freaking mind up.
So I mean, okay. I just got your picture of your
the greatest costume of all time.
It's terrible.
I have to agree that this is actually a really good costume. So I'm not going to say it's the greatest of all time.
Okay, I'll let it slide.
Terrible. I'm going to say that's actually
the public
really good.
Police box, public call box from. You're the TARDIS.
Thank you.
Now,
here, let me. I'm going to do my best to describe what exactly is going on here. This was 5 years ago, 2011. All right. Now, if you guys have this picture in front of you, I know our listening audience does not, but you can see that I've got pretty much what went into this was me going to Lowe's and say, "Hey, you got any refrigerator boxes left?" "Yeah, sure, I got one." "Okay, so give me a refrigerator box." I go home and I grab all the construction paper that I can find, and I proceed to plaster it up along all the sides of it. As clearly you could see, I did not get the top of it. My head is the little light, by the way, Adam. That's on the
I didn't realize that, but
if I should have painted myself white, that would have been great.
No.
The easiest part, which you can't see right here on the front, Adam, the little sign for the TARDIS, the police box sign. You can find that and print that off on one single sheet. And I think I shoved it on the side here, the thing that says like for emergencies or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was on here. But anyway, this thing cost me about $5 to put together. But here's the cool part. If you guys look on the right-hand side up there at the top, you'll see a little box. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a voice recorder that I used to play the theme song to Doctor Who over and over as I went along with the kids. And bonus, okay, this was the greatest part of this whole costume. Caleb was 1 at the time. He was 1 year old or getting ready to turn 2. And I didn't have arms. So I didn't have to push the stroller. Yes. All I did was walk around.
I was hoping you'd be like, he's actually in my arms in the box right now. Because that's something that I would totally do.
And the blue duct tape down the bottom. This is the worst thing. Like, it's so off color, but I something happened and it ripped. I didn't have enough blue construction paper to finish the job. So I went and grabbed blue duct tape that I had laying around here. This is obviously the worst put together TARDIS you could ever find in your entire life. But it is officially, you guys are looking at the last costume that I dressed up in for Halloween.
That's awesome, though, man.
All right. We got a couple of tweets from that guy, Dave G. Pie.
Uh-oh.
And one of them says he was a slutty pirate in 97.
With a mullet.
Who wasn't? Who wasn't back then?
But he has an actual picture, and he said, I was a flasher for Halloween in 1987. True story. And as our friend, Dave G. Pie.
I'm heading to my phone right now.
In a black Lone Ranger mask. Looks like I don't know what's in his mouth, maybe a cigar. And then he is in his boxers with a long coat on, and he's opening up the coat like he's a flasher.
Oh, man.
And it is amazing.
He has outdone himself yet again.
Oh my gosh. So Halloween, man. Okay. I have a few traditions that I do every Halloween that I told a little bit about. Jesse, your tradition is to play Nintendo and avoid trick-or-treating and avoid pushing the stroller by making no armholes in your costume.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It truly is, actually.
It's brilliant.
So, with kids, it's kind of hard to hold to those traditions that you may have, but is there anything like you do every year, Adam, like for Halloween or anything like that?
There was until I had kids, and then it kind of changes. But the past 5 years or so, not really. We just go trick-or-treating, but this year I tried to, as we found out earlier, I tried to enact a new tradition. And I said, you know what? Let's watch a scary movie. and my youngest was like, yeah, scary movie. And in my mind, I'm thinking maybe it's not a good idea. And Jesse, you can relate to this. Like when you start thinking it's not a good idea, you just have to start backtracking. You know what I mean? You have to start being like, okay, what's Plan B? Because it's not a good idea. I don't want to
work out
without actually telling them this is a good idea. This is not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I was like, well, I was like, I remember this movie, and it wasn't scary when I saw it, but then again, I in retrospect, I went back and I started thinking when we saw it, we watched it behind my parents' back, right. We weren't allowed to watch it because it was too scary, So I turned on, I found it on it was some obscure network on Roku, and I forget what it is, but they had it
Crackle.
for free, and no, it's not. It's like
Crackle.
It's some movie thing, but it's the Monster Squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, it's Halloween, it's a kid adventure movie. And
it's one of my favorite movies ever, and definitely one of my favorite Halloween movies. And I know our friend Jason, I said he thinks I'm mad at me whenever I say his first name. So our friend Teasley from the Radio Lich and Broadcasting Network. He used to be, from the cheap seats. But our friend Teasley, who's also one of our movie guys here, he loves the Monster Squad, and he and I have talked about it several times.
He told me,
yeah.
No, but as I was watching it, the credits were rolling, and I read the intro to this whole thing, and as I'm
why would you read the intro to them? That's terrifying on its own.
Because I'm being nice, man. They can't read,
right?
Okay.
So, go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. like the next part of this is hilarious. As I'm watching this, it shows Dracula's castle, and it shows the bat. The bat's all just goofy looking, and I was like, Cash, it's Dracula, and my oldest is kind of sitting there, just silent, just watching the movie, just staring at it. There's like expressionless face on him. My youngest
is pretty chill about most things. Though.
He wasn't scared. Like he didn't get scared at all because it wasn't.
Most, as long as it's a TV show, I think he's pretty chill about it, right? Hello.
Like, can you hear me?
No, I said he's as long as it's like on the TV, he's pretty chill about it, right?
Yeah, because he gets pretty freaked out about the those decorations at Home Depot. They're like on the springs and stuff. He gets freaked out by those because they move on their own, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But Cash, we're watching this movie and he's just kind of sitting there and he's like, "Oh, this is scary. Oh, this is scary." And I said, "It's not scary." Well, in the very beginning, they all storm into this castle, and there's one of the vampire virgins with all blood hanging out her mouth, and he was like, "That's scary." And I went, "Yes, it is. We have to turn this off." And then he looks at me, and I looked at him, and I was like, "Don't tell your mom." First thing, man. First thing, he came in, and he was like, "Daddy, let me watch a scary movie." And my mom's like, and my mom, shoot, Becky's like, she's like, "You let him watch what?" And I was like, "Monster Squad." It wasn't scary when last time I watched it, but that was back in like 1991. You know.
All right. So, Jesse, any traditions other than what we mentioned that you ever?
Man, I'm trying to think. Really, honestly, it's eating candy. How's that?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's perfect.
There is definitely going to be some candy eating in the Starcher household once the kids come home.
Set up. I mean, you've got kids that do all the footwork.
There is some
work.
Dad taxes are enacted big time on Halloween. You can guarantee
that's awesome. I didn't even think about that.
Dad tax. You take a bite out of that sandwich you make every time. That's what I do. I make the peanut butter jelly sandwich. I take a bite. I say dad tax. So that's
so great.
That's
brilliant.
But man, I'm trying, honestly, dude, we may watch a couple scary movies. We are boring compared to some other people that are out there. I think the kids love going trick-or-treating. You want me to do Pat Ball Starch here? Because I'll do it.
All right, Pat Ball Starch. Let's
turn this car around.
Yes. Pat Ball Starch gets a little upset because, I mean, Halloween was fun when we were kids. I don't understand how our parents dealt with it, though, because maybe things have changed. Maybe I can't remember what my mom would do after I would go trick-or-treating. Would she just leave that bag of candy sitting in the room with me and just trust me with it? Because that's a stupid thing to do.
Mine was hidden. My mom would hide mine.
Okay. All right. So, as parents now, me and my wife go trick-or-treating with, when we go with the kids to trick-or-treat, we come home and we have, dude, I swear we had at least close to over 6 or 7 pounds of candy last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot when you've got 3 kids because that stuff just comes in, that's 3 hits of the house every time. But what these kids, man, it's like they will do nothing. They will do everything they can to get a piece of candy. And you could be like, okay, look, you've got to eat your dinner tonight. Okay. You've got to eat dinner. And then when you're done, you can have a piece of candy. You can have a few pieces of candy. All right. But when you have the 7 pounds of candy sitting up in the cabinet,
yes,
they know it's there. It's like they can sense it.
Yeah.
They can sense the candies up there. And they want to, they can I have a piece of candy? No. And then it's like, dude, you just told them that the worst thing in the world. They're going to start throwing a fit. I want a piece of candy. And then, or it's over and over. Like Colton doesn't understand he doesn't understand no so well, because when you tell him no, he'll ask you again. And then it's, I need it. I need it.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, man.
Colt, you don't need the candy. So I have never been so close to banning Halloween in my entire life up until tonight. Seriously, if my wife was down here right now, she would attest to it, because she looked at me today. She says, you understand that we're going to go have fun. It's for the kids to have a good time. You know what? 10% of that is them having a good time. The other 90% is them on the floor throwing a tantrum because they can't have candy right now.
Football starts.
Here's the thing, though.
Full effect,
Here's
brother.
the thing. Here's the thing. This is hilarious for everybody who's not a parent.
It's
it's not fun. It's not fun, because you go out, okay, like I have 2 little boys. We're gonna go from house to house to house to house. Seriously, about halfway through, my oldest is gonna be like, I don't feel like walking anymore.
Yeah.
So somebody has to carry him, or you could be like my youngest and be like, I'm not riding in that wagon. That wagon just brought.
Wagon. That's brilliant.
You're gonna carry me. No, I mean, yeah, and it's just like, and they sit there. But the thing is, like, they'll eat all the candy. Like my youngest is just, he's a candy fiend. He's like, you remember on Walking Dead when Rick's little kid, Rick's son, he takes those rats or something, and he puts them on a skateboard and just kind of sends them through the door of this restaurant, and all these walkers just get up and go to it. That's like how kids are with candy. I'm not even freaking kidding, man. Like they'll just like go after it, and they'll just start like, try to. I mean, seriously. I mean, they will hurt themselves trying to get the candy.
It is. They want that candy so bad, and you get so much of it. You get a lot of candy. So what this Halloween we have decided to do. I've never done this before in my entire life. We're doing the trunk or treats. Okay.
Yeah.
Trunk or treats are cool because they're, people want to show up at a certain location. Everybody who wants to come there, if you want to dress your car up or whatever you'd call, like the cars we saw were all, had all decoration, a bunch of decorations.
Are you talking about the trunk or treat type thing?
Yeah, trunk or treat. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what we've decided in our infinite wisdom as parents is that we're going to do trick or treat like 4 times up to Halloween. We're just going to do a bunch of trunk or treats every night.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
I will share on social media the amount of candy that we have at the end of things.
Please do.
And it's staggering. I want to turn it into money. Like a while back, seriously, I should be able to package this stuff and resell it or something. But a while back, like the dentists were doing something where you could take them some candy and they would trade something in. I can't remember what they would give you back. It can't be worth it.
Free filling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
You don't think they would want, the dentist offices would not want you to get rid of your candy. They would want you to consume as much as you possibly can.
Have this straight up sugar.
Yeah, don't brush your teeth
on it right here.
Right before you go to bed, get all that Butterfinger stuff stuck in your teeth, and then just go right to bed.
Just go to town on.
But anyway, it is rough to enjoy Halloween. And I just told you, I never really celebrated it a whole lot when I was a kid, but it has gotten. When you have kids, things change. Now I'm going to try my best to find the fun in the holiday, and there's a lot of it. All right. But what that may entail is just me going somewhere and the kids going somewhere else.
Starch.
I mean, there's got to be, and you don't, and if you're like anything like me, you don't want your kids to be left out. You know what I mean? You want them to partake in the Halloween. You want them to go trick or treating. And as much fun as I had when I was little, we'd get a pillowcase and we'd go from house to house to house to house. We'd be out till 11 o'clock at night. But my mom would hide my candy. She would take that whole thing, like we'd dump it all out. I mean, it was a tradition. You get home, you dump everything out, and you sort it.
Like swim in it. Swim in it first.
Swim in it like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, like Scrooge McDuck. Yeah. But like we'd sort it, and it's like I've asked myself this about literally everything. It's not just Halloween, but it's like, man, how do my parents do this? Like, how do they put up with my shenanigans? I can't even put up with my kids.
Okay, all right. We are way past. I mean,
it's way past nap time for the old people here.
Ronnie, you asked for this.
No, I didn't.
You knew what this
did
was.
Not ask
we forced it upon him.
Yes, this is not good. So I just asked for Halloween traditions, and I got more than I bargained for.
Back in my day.
Yeah, I walked uphill to get candy both ways.
You asked for Halloween traditions. Got Clint Eastwood. You got Grand.
Shoot. So my my tradition usually consists of me finding a good haunted house to go to if I can get out. You know, like I said last year, I went to the Hollywood Horror Show a lot, and it was a lot of fun. And then my tradition is to usually watch at least one horror movie a night. You know, starting about maybe, you know, the closest I ever cut it is a week out from Halloween. I'll start, you know, at least 7 movies, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I try to watch that, you know, and I'm talking like classics like Night of the Living Dead and, you know, Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness or, you know, Shaun of the Dead. You know, I consider that a classic. But I also watch like your Universal horror. You know, I know Adam's a fan of those.
Yes, I've been watching those. Let me tell you a story because I have a story about something else. But go ahead.
Dave G. Pie actually said that he remembers seeing John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness in 1987 at being scared, and also 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street, which is another one I've seen. Or I try, you know, I'll throw that in the mix. Halloween from 1978 is one of my all-time favorite movies. Yes. You know, to watch during the Halloween season. Michael Myers. My all-time favorite, of course, is going to be Night of the Living Dead from 1969. You know, it's George Romero's classic. I actually today conquered a childhood fear. I say conquered because now it doesn't drum up those old feelings as a child that I had as a child. It actually made me laugh a little bit today. And right before the show, I watched Children of the Corn, Stephen King's Children of the Corn. Of course, you know, you've got everybody, you know, if you're not familiar with Children of the Corn, is this young couple, you know, accidentally, you know, they have an accident with a young, starts out with these kids, they murder all the adults in a town, which is, you know, terrifying enough.
So that's all you really need to know.
That's all you really need to know. And this young couple accidentally hits one of these boys who is out here before that, who's been, you know, has throat cut, and, you know, he's trying to run away from this town. And it's kind of like these kids fell on the wrong side. This young preacher boy, you know, false prophet came into town and started preaching and corrupted all these children. And they all worship this being called He Who Walks Behind the Rows of Corn. And it was like this angry demon that they didn't realize was a demon. And so, you know, it's just they're fantastical adventures with that. And as a child, as a kid, we snuck and watched this, my sister and I. And it absolutely terrified me because these, you know, at one point, Isaac, the leader of these kids, he has this really deep kind of crazy, almost demonic voice. You know, he's like, he wants you to, Malachi. And Malachi was his second in command. And I, you know, it terrified me as a kid. And my sister would torture me. She'd be like, Malachi, you know, chase me around the house. And, you know, as a kid, it just, you know, watching this movie, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this as a kid. Well, I sat down and I made myself watch it. And it got to the point, you know, the climax of the movie where, you know, all the craziness happened. And I remember now that this movie was made. It was based on, it's based on a short story by Stephen King. And it was made in 1984. Uh-huh. And the special effects used for He Who Walks Behind the Rows and Malachi and Isaac and everything were just awful. Definitely 1984. So I was sitting there cackling, laughing at it because it's so bad tonight. And I conquered a childhood fear, you know, and just, you know, it's one of those things that feels good, but almost, loses that Halloween magic of one of those things. Oh, I can't go through with it or whatever. So, one of my, that counts towards my tradition of watching a movie before Halloween. But now I have to mark that one off my list because, it's like, whatever now. But it was one of those movies for a kid. It was terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
One movie that still just, that disturbed me and never really scared me was Night of the Living Dead. And it was like one of those movies that still gives me the shivers today. Just the thought of, being trapped in that house and, not being able to, just being surrounded, flesh-eating zombies and all that. There are very few movies that actually like give me that scared feeling. But it's usually the ones that scare me that can actually maybe happen. Not Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street and Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, all these movies. I know that they really, there's no hockey mask slasher that comes back from the dead, things like that. So I don't really, I'm not scared of those. Scream, however, scared the crap out of me as a kid. Just jump scares and stuff. Or not as a kid, but when it came out, the jump scares. Kind of those things. One of the movies that disturbed me, a horror movie, was, and it actually is a horror movie, no matter what people say, is Red State by Kevin Smith, because it was based on the Westboro Baptist Church. So, there's very few movies, but I would say Night of the Living Dead is one of those movies that absolutely, still holds a place, in me that still gives me the willies, still scares me. Are there any movies, and Jesse, we'll start with you, that to this day that a scary movie comes on around Halloween that draws you to it but still scares you, that scared you as a kid?
I never got the chance to finish Children of the Corn, and I don't think I ever will, so we can't count that.
Okay.
I definitely would say, man, some of the great Halloween movies that I remember watching, Monster Squad, easy. That's a good one that I can pull that out any day and watch it.
You because you don't do a lot of scary stuff though.
No, I'm not. Well, yeah, you could pretty much say that. Man, I'm trying to think of some good ghost stories that I can remember coming on, like tonight. I was just looking through trying to find some good stuff. We found Michael J. Fox and Frighteners.
Yeah.
That's a good one to watch. That I will watch. It's just so quirky and out there that it's somewhat scary, more funny. We've had the discussion on here, I think it was last year, where I don't think I've watched hardly any Nightmare on Elm Street, hardly any Halloween, hardly any Friday the 13th. So that stuff's kind of out of my realm as well. If you find a good ghost story, I think we mentioned Poltergeist. That was one. I love watching that. I watched the remake, by the way. That came out? Oh, I don't remember. I just know it wasn't anywhere near as scary, because I think it's the remake of Poltergeist was PG-13.
Yeah.
So it did not hold anywhere near the fright factor. I can remember being scared of that freaking movie while it was on like cable TV, like on ABC. I was still scared. They were taking out all the real major gory parts, and I was still pretty frightened of that movie. Adam, why don't you go ahead? I'll try and think of a couple other ones here well, you think I would have prepared for this or something, but
well, this question actually changed literally less than an hour ago, because what movies that freak me out. So there's going to be a movie that's always underlying. It's always going to freak me out that I can't bring myself to watch again, just because it's just I don't do stuff like that. I can do monster movies, and I can do some gore, zombie movies, but The Exorcist always is going to just get me. I was like,
Eh. See, those are the movies that I don't do.
But with that being said, I was putting my
Yeah,
oldest to sleep tonight, and I was putting him to sleep, and I said, and I've been watching like Ronnie. I've been watching a scary movie a day, and lately I've been really into the Hitchcock movies. I watched Psycho and The Birds and Rear Window. So I'm really like that's like the gold standard for me. The Universal monsters, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Invisible Man. But tonight I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch a movie that I had watched before, but it was the newer version of it. And it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Why?
Well, just hear me out. So
I don't want to.
Because I remember seeing, I think it's Jessica Biel. I think she's in the
She
remake.
is. Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking,
we know Jesse's thought
no
on
more.
this.
Well, like I saw it and I was like, that wasn't all that scary, and I probably saw it when I was like 25, so like that really wasn't all that scary. So I was like, I want to watch the original one, buddy. Let me tell you, I got about 20 minutes into this movie. It's like watching a snuff. It's like watching a snuff film.
Yeah, it really is.
I am not kidding.
It's disturbing.
It reminds me of Manhunt. No joke.
Yeah.
And like it was and I tell you what did it for me was and it was a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Having kids, you kind of get resensitized to things that you previously weren't desensitized to.
That's absolute truth.
Yeah, like you can watch horror movies out the yin yang when you're in college, because I did. I mean, I loved horror movies. I was a Paranormal Activity guy. I loved it all. But you have kids and you get resensitized to this stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm fucking doing something I shouldn't. But I watched this movie, and it's like the very, very, very beginning of this movie. And if you guys have seen this movie, it is the most screwed up movie.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I mean, it's I honestly, and I don't mean to bash the movie, because the movie is one of those classic movies that if you're a horror fan, this is one of those movies that you're probably gonna see. But like the guy, they pick up that hitchhiker who's just crazy. Has like that crazy birthmark on his face, which just adds to the creepiness factor. And he pulls out this straight switchblade, and he grabs Franklin's knife and cuts his hand open. And the movie hasn't even really started at this point. This is just like the first 5 minutes. And he takes a picture of him, and they don't like it, so he lights it on fire. And then they kick him out of the van, and he smears blood all over the side of the van. Well, the part that got me was that guy and the girl. They went down to I guess they found out the Franklin house, and the guy in the wheelchair, he's in there, and then I think his sister and her boyfriend are upstairs, and then the other two, guy and girl, they go out to go swimming. They run across this house that. They hear a generator going. It's like, oh, gasoline. We can, he's like, I can leave my guitar. We can give him a couple bucks, collateral stuff, blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, they go in, and the first time the guy goes in, and Leatherface comes out, and he's atrocious, man. Leatherface is one of those, like, he's one of those characters that's just like, what were they thinking? What was going through these people's heads when they thought up this character who literally wears other people's faces for a mask, and he lives he's a butcher. And
Hannibal Lecter.
What is it?
Hannibal Lecter.
Right, exactly. But this is on a completely different demented level than Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter has some kind of refined, all
right, creeper.
A certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
Leatherface is like, I mean, it's like the guy never had, and he's like, he never got out of elementary school. He's like a 5th grade education mindset, and he's in charge of slaughtering these animals. And it's just like whatever, he just kill it, So he kills this guy, and it's like knocks him in the head with his axe, and then he like has that seizure on the floor, which just. You don't see that, in newer movies when people get hacked up, they don't have that seizure. You know what I mean? They don't it's just one and done, you know. Well, this guy, like, the camera just like lingered on this guy, and he was like seizing, like his feet were like kicking, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's screwed up. Anyway, his girlfriend starts coming in, and she goes into that room, and the room with all the like the chicken feathers in it, and like the bones and all the stuff, and she just starts like throwing up. Like, and like she has the reaction I think that everybody would have in a room like that. You know, usually people start screaming, but in this movie, she's like, I'm gonna gag and throw up, because that's what people would actually do. And then she runs out, and Leatherface grabs her and takes her downstairs and just hangs her up on that meat hook. And I was like, off. I was like, clear history.
Ouch.
So that's when I turned it off, and that's what it did for me. And it was a total of 20 minutes. So I was like, nah, not doing this anymore. I'm just gonna stick to Psycho, which is a great movie. I think that's probably one of my favorite Halloween movies is Psycho.
Some movies are meant to scare and give a to entertain by scaring you. And some, and some movies are meant to shock. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Some of the minor plot points are based on a real murderer. Ed
Gein.
Yeah.
I did
the Mad Butcher.
A book report on him.
Yeah.
I did a book report on him in high school.
And believe it or not, this was just mentioned last night on the Metal Hammer of Doom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ed Gein was, anyway. Coop brought him up, so go ahead and continue.
Oh, so you've got things in here, that are meant to shock, meant to, most of your newer, independent horror movies are meant to just gross you out. I don't consider those true, like scary movies. Those are just meant for the shock value. And people have thrown around the term, and I've thrown around the term torture porn.
Oh yeah.
I think most of we'll say like Hostel and things like that fall under that.
Anything by Eli Roth. Yeah.
Eli Roth. They those kind of fall under that category.
Eli Roth, did he direct Knock Knock?
That's
on Netflix though.
Oh my gosh.
I saw it.
I would like to just take a quick aside.
With Keanu Reeves?
Yes.
It is on.
Yeah, he actually did. Yeah.
I don't want to spoil this movie for you guys, but I will tell you right now, as much of it as it is a thriller, Keanu Reeves should have stayed away from that role far, far, far away, because he was not meant for that role at all. At all. But I just want to go ahead and put it out there that I'm going to
have to watch this now just because of that.
Yeah, I know. I'm putting it in my queue right now.
He's put in a situation that, I don't know if you guys know the premise behind the story or behind the show, if you've seen the preview or whatever. I'm not going to spoil anything by telling you what the preview shows, that the trailer shows. This guy, he is home alone. His wife and kids have left to go to the beach or something like that. And two young women show up at his house, and it's drenching, pouring rain outside. They claim that they're lost, and then they end up seducing him, even though throughout he doesn't want to have any part of it until things start to escalate, and then he ends up following through. And then the next morning, they flip their lids. They become absolutely insane and crazy. And while he's stuck in this house, he is summarily, I want to say, somewhat tortured psychologically. This is typical Eli Roth stuff, just not to some extremes that we've seen in other stuff. But Keanu Reeves could not. Have you guys ever heard him called Old Wooden Face?
Yeah.
Okay, I think you might have even called him that, Ronnie, and that's probably where I'm getting it from.
I don't think because I'm a Keanu fan.
Okay, well, I've heard it somewhere, and he's
if I'm wrong if I said that.
Well, it's very hard for him to emote anything and me take him seriously. Okay, and I just couldn't do it. I mean, John Wick. You guys have seen John Wick, right?
Yeah, where he plays the emotionless.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
that was a perfect movie for him. He did tremendous. Knock Knock, when he's
not so much.
Dude, I just couldn't take it. I remember looking over at my wife, and specifically at the end. If you guys watch this, please pay attention to the very end, where one of the most hilarious things happens throughout the whole movie. They save it up right to the end. But anyway, I remember looking over at my wife. I'm just like, I can't take this guy. This is it was a good premise of a movie, but anyway, I've derailed it long enough. You guys mentioned Eli Roth, and I thought, man, it'd be a good time to let you guys know whether you want to or not to watch that movie.
Well, it's on Amazon Prime right now. Like I'm looking at it, and it's got a 2.5 out of 5 stars.
It is, there's room to enjoy it. But man, I don't know, Keanu.
There are movies that are, like I said, like, oh gosh, I'm just thinking about that now. There are movies that are meant to
shock
make you think, shock you. And there's some that are made, like we have a friend of the show. I call her a friend of the show now, and she's a wonderful girl, a wonderful young lady, and she's very talented photographer, very talented, and she's now a director and writer. Film, she wrote the screenplay, she wrote this, everything for. She Was So Pretty, an independent horror movie out of West Virginia, and her name is Brooklyn Ewing, and her movie, is, gosh, it's got that 80s horror movie feel to it, and it's just so good. With the shots and how everything looked and everything, she did such a wonderful job on it. For having absolutely zero budget. I think a lot of it was shot with one camera. She got friends and family and everything to be in it. She had an Indiegogo account set up where they had. They did crowd crowd fundraising and everything. Just a great a great project that we got behind. And if you're looking for an independent, just something fun to watch this Halloween, She Was So Pretty. You can get it on Vimeo. Order the movie. Just watch it any way you can. Shout out to Brooklyn there. And and Justin is in it. Yeah, Justin Ewing. It's awesome. And Chris Parsons, the whole cast did a great job. So it has the 80s horror movie feel, the stuff that I grew up, watching, sneaking and watching and things like that. And there are some that are just meant to gross you out, and there are some that are just absolutely terrifying. We've thrown around the word torture porn, and this is going to segue us into our next discussion, because right in time for Halloween, ghosts and goblins and ghouls, we have, of course, my favorite subject and my favorite movie genre, kind of in the Halloween movie discussion, is zombies. Last week, I don't want to say last week. Well, yeah, this week in Sunday, the 20. Yeah, October. What was Sunday?
Sunday. 23rd.
23rd. We had the world premiere of the 7th season of The Walking Dead. Now, last season we were introduced to one of the best villains, and they couldn't that comic book and TV has ever produced, and his name is Negan. And he has his bat wrapped in barbed wire, which he has named Lucille. And we got to, from a point of view, we got to see him introduce Lucille to someone and beat them to death with it, just like in the comic book. But we didn't know who it was. So we've waited an entire summer up to, part of the fall up to the last week to see who got introduced to Lucille. So we're waiting for this to happen. Everybody's waiting for this. Everybody's glued to the TV. Walking Dead fans, some probably that are just getting into the show, or just eager to see who bought the farm. And when I say eager, they're nervous. They're Most people are nervous wreck when they're watching the show, because I know I was waiting with bated breath and anticipation to see what was going to happen. If you're a fan of the comic book, we know, and I will say, if you have not seen the season premiere of season 7 of The Walking Dead, there are spoilers ahoy.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to us live, I'm going to warn you now, spoilers. If you're listening to us recorded, pause it, go watch it, come back and listen to it, because we're about to spoil the crap out of it.
Don't worry, it was already spoiled for me the night it happened.
We'll get into that as well. And then if you've not read the comic books and you're reading them and you have not gotten to issue 100, we're going to spoil the crap out of it. Fans of the comic book knew, because of issue 100, they had a good feeling of who was going to get it, because in issue 100, Lucille is used to put down one of the, he wasn't like, he was a strong character in the comic book series, very strong character, and it was Glenn Rhee. In the comic book, in issue 100, that was a major death in the series The Walking Dead. So people were, saying, "Oh, is it going to be Glenn? Is it going to be Steven?" I can't pronounce his last name, but is it going to be, him? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Daryl? Oh God, the fangirls will riot if it's Daryl. Which most of the fanboys would probably riot as well. I'm a Daryl fan, and I was hoping it wasn't him, but you got your you've got all of your rumors and people. This is one of those. I mean, if you all will agree with me, this is one of those premieres, one of those shows that was the most scrutinized and the most, I guess you could say. I mean, people were taking the last few minutes of this show, slowing it down, pointing at the positions of everybody, getting out their calculators, doing scientific math equations, trying to figure out where everybody was. I heard in the audio somebody yelling out for Maggie, so maybe Maggie that got it. People, there was so much speculation behind this; it was crazy. And then we get to the eeny, meeny, miny, mo part, and this nobody can. I defy anyone to tell me what else happened in this episode. We get to the eeny, meeny, miny, mo part where he's trying to pick him out, and then he gets to Abraham, one of the best characters on the show, and Abraham, he just clocks Abraham over the head.
Yep.
And as he points his bat at Abraham, he flashes a peace sign to his girlfriend, which is their way of saying goodbye. And while he's staring Negan in the eye, Negan just crashes down on his head with Lucille. I called Abraham last season. I said it's going to be Abraham. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling it's going to be Abraham. I called him. And I said they can't get rid of, they can. It doesn't matter, but I don't know if they're going to get rid of Glenn. I don't know if they can't get rid of Daryl, because that's one of their money makers right there. Of course, they're not going to get rid of Rick or anybody. So I have a sinking feeling it's going to be Abraham, and I was right. Mm-hmm. Abraham, excuse me for my vulgarity, but Abraham, and his defiance, looks at Negan and says, "Suck my nuts." And classic Abraham. He is known for his crazy quotes, and his head is then pulped. Is the only way I can put it. His head is then pulped by Negan, and everybody is in tears. They're sobbing. They're like, "I can't believe you just did that."
Let's stop it right here, real quick.
We'll stop it right here.
All right. I know you're on a roll, but I'm watching the show, and at that point in time, first off, me, you, whoever else out there was anticipating what was going to happen, was expecting one person to get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they chose Abraham, I was just like you. I thought, well, this is the end.
Right.
This is where it is. Abraham, if you remember right, got it early in the book. He didn't even make it to this far.
No.
In the book, he got an arrow to the eye, or arrow to the back of the head through his eye. I'll never forget that image. Mm-hmm. Very similar to, wasn't there a character that died that way in it was the nurse, or not the nurse, but like the doctor.
The doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She ended up getting it pretty much
an arrow through the eye.
An arrow through the eye. So, watching Abraham go, I'm feeling pretty comfortable at this point in the episode. I'm like, okay, well,
that's where I was going. There was almost, like, as sad as it is to see Abraham go, there was almost an audible, you could almost hear it throughout, the Walking Dead fans, an audible sigh of like, okay,
yeah.
We can mourn Abraham. This is pretty graphic. This is pretty rough.
All right, I'll let you continue.
And then, the whole thing is mixed. It's a flashback, and it's mixed with Rick and Negan being in this camper, this RV, and they're going out, and Rick always carries this axe, and he throws the axe on the roof of the RV. He says, "Now go get my axe." And they're amongst all these walkers, all these zombies. So Rick has to pretty much fight for his life, to get this axe. So Negan the whole time is trying to prove to Rick that he's no longer his own man. He's Negan's man. He belongs. He is Negan's property at this point. And but there was almost, like I said, an almost audible sigh of relief of just like, okay, oh God, it's over. I didn't want to see him go. And then all of a sudden, we forget that Daryl had attacked Negan at one point, and he said, I remember I have to make you pay. I can't remember the entire thing, but he just turns around and he clocks Glenn over the head. Yeah. Pop. And then everybody's like, I myself yelled, it scared my dog, scared probably my next door neighbor. Holy crap. Cracked him right over the head. And it was a scene right out of the comic books. Oh my God, you took it. He's taking, the first one was you take it like a champ. That was towards Abraham, and then in this one, it was this word for word right out of the comic book almost.
I'm looking at the comic right now as we speak, and you're right. I mean, yeah, it is almost word for word. You hear him or you see him. Holy, he's taking it like a champ.
Yeah,
and Glenn's sitting there trying to say something and he can't get the words out. I mean, I popped your eye out.
Yeah, that's gross as crap, And you see it, and it's almost exactly, frame for frame, word for word, like the comic book. You see, in the episode, Glenn's eye almost popped out. You see the wound on his head, and then he goes again, and he, the only other word. Yes, Dave G. Pie, is way too soon to say that Glenn looked like the Toxic Avenger. But he pulps Glenn's head. I mean, at one point in the comic book, in issue 100, he screams Maggie. He screams out Maggie's name. And in the series, I almost think that they did it right this time. He just looks at Maggie and says, "I'll find you." And then that's it. Boom, dead. There has been it's an understatement to say there has been a mixed reaction to this episode, and the word torture porn has been thrown around for this episode. They said it's too graphic. They said it was too, some people said it was too much and everything. I have my opinions on this, but this was the episode. This was the episode where all of the he was almost forced to cut off. Rick was almost forced to cut off Carl's arm. All this stuff, and he was basically, Negan was breaking this group down to nothing and not building them back, just breaking them down and saying, "You belong to me now. You're my people. What's yours is mine, and you pay your tribute to me. I own you." And so he did that by taking out two of their group and, breaking down their leader, who's a strong leader, who is, a brave man, a good man, and reducing him to nothing by watching him, two of his friends died, him having to make a choice and all this other stuff. So it was a very, I will give you this. It was a very rough episode to watch because I myself was a nervous wreck after it. I watched most of it with my hands over my hand over my mouth, going, oh my gosh. I mean, I can't believe this. It was, the writers, to me, the actors, oh my gosh, the actors just nailed it home. You will not find a better actor for Negan than Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Oh my gosh, he's incredible. And Dave G. Pie actually just tweeted this and said several folks he knows said they're done with The Walking Dead. And not him, but he understands it. So, yeah. Jesse, let me get your reaction to this episode of The Walking Dead.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, me and you follow each other on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you know what my feelings were going up to it. I didn't watch it the night it happened.
Right.
The night that it premiered, I kind of waited until I had the opportunity to sit down with my wife because this is one of those shows that we enjoy, both of us enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I dreaded it.
Yeah.
I dreaded it all day. For the couple of days, I think I watched it 2 nights ago, and I just could not. I almost didn't want to watch it. I almost didn't want to actually watch the premiere because what was going through my head was what Adam just sent to us here at the end of that issue.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
I remember reading this, and I think I've said it on this podcast. If not, I know I definitely said it on source material. Reading issue 100 affected me so much. I read that issue on an iPhone 3, and I still had nightmares. I remember laying there in bed, just thinking to myself, this series, I was invested into this The Walking Dead series, the comic book, and just issue 100 affected me greatly. I still continued reading because I wanted to see Negan get his. All right. So coming up to the episode itself, I honestly questioned whether I wanted to go through that again. And I said, watching it, looking at it and seeing it happen on a comic book versus seeing it happen on the screen, is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? How's it going to make me feel? I didn't want to see it actually happen in front of me. So anyway, so we watched the episode. I sit down with my wife, and if at all ever have I ever gotten a queasy stomach watching a show. And I wouldn't say it was because it was the gore factor in any way, because it wasn't happening at the time that my body was feeling like this. It was the anticipation of knowing what was going to happen. And I felt ill, dude. I felt, I remember, feeling it in my stomach and my arms. You ever get that back of the knee feeling when you're about to, you could have fell over or something like that, or it was affecting me all over. And I just, when it all went down, we made it through the episode. I told my wife I most likely we're going to continue to watch it, but just like Dave G. Pie said, I can see a lot of people who feel that this is going to be a horrific season. Sean Comer, you can check him out on the Rattling Broadcasting Network every once in a while. We talk about, you mentioned torture porn.
Yeah.
He commented with something about how, the misery porn is the nth level with this show.
Well, you're talking about the movie Misery?
No, no. We're talking.
I've seen that kind of crap, and that grosses me out too. But that's nothing. That is a handle to what because I've watched it because somebody on my feed decided to just blurt it out, and it's the first thing that I saw. So I knew what happened almost immediately. So I ended up Googling it, and I found it, and it's.
Yeah, the gore stuff is over the top in the episode. I you know what? Some people can cry about that all they want. I'm not going to say that it was over the top gory, although it for myself. For other people, I can see it. But the misery point that he's talking about is these people are, Rick's group is suffering day in and day out, this post-apocalyptic world that they're living in. And it almost becomes like, I know what the next like season and a half is going to be. I lived through The Governor. Okay. It's going to be them. They're going to have to do something to make this series a little bit more interesting for me to want to continue to watch it. Like, I want to see Negan get his. I want to see that happen.
Right.
But I am going to. I know I'm going to have to endure. I don't think they're going. I don't think Negan is going to be face to face with Rick by the end of the season. I think they'll lead up to it, but I think it's going to take 2 seasons to get there. And do I really want to have to watch Rick and them suffer at the hands of these D-bags the whole way through? And I mean, these guys have done something magical with Walking Dead. We're going on 7 seasons now. So it would be crazy. It's a crazy thing for me to actually think that Negan showing up in the series is actually going to be the point where I believe the show will jump the shark.
Now you say that for me one more time. So
Negan showing up in the series is going to be the point where the show jumps the shark.
You really think? Yeah. Okay.
I honestly think that a lot of people, we've already seen it. A lot of people are going to say, "Well, I'm done with it," because we have reached a point. That point in this show is. I don't know how you can go up from there. I really don't. It's going to be a long, arduous process, and a lot of people are probably looking at this series going, "Okay, so they kind of know what's coming." So I don't want to sit here and say that I hate The Walking Dead, because I certainly do not. I've been watching it for 7 seasons. I foresee a lot of people having issue with the fact that they're going to have to sit through another season or so of knowing what's going to happen. We'll see. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, tremendous actor. And Negan was that guy was a piece of work in the comics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of people were wondering how he was going to, come across, because in the comics he's quite foul-mouthed.
Yeah,
and
flippant.
Very flippant.
He would, just like in the show, he would kill a guy, and then that had to be important because getting that across to people that could have been done by any other, an attempt at that could have been done by any other actor, and it easily failed. But he perfected that flippancy to where he's just like, it's almost like, hey, don't you realize the world that you're living in now? And he's killing people with a smile on his face, and just, oh wow, he's a powerful character. Go ahead and continue.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
Well, I'm hearing people, oh, man. Okay, so I think people comparing this to quote unquote torture porn is a bit unfair.
Okay.
At what has happened to this in this show in the past. The very first episode, they shot a little girl in the eye or in the head. He shot a little girl who was a zombie in the head. Doesn't matter if she was a zombie.
Season 1, right? You're talking about season 1?
Season 1, very first episode. This little girl's carrying around a teddy bear, and he pops her in the dome. It doesn't matter whether she's a zombie or not. She's a little girl. You know what I mean? I get it. She's a zombie. It's him or her. It's got to be one or the other, and he's not going to let it be him. But he doesn't understand what's going on in this, in this world, because it's all new to him. He doesn't know that there's a zombie apocalypse happening. He just woke up from a daggone coma. So it's, and I'm not faulting the show for that. I'm just saying we've seen that. We've seen, heads explode, people tortured. I mean, you look at the governor. You look at I mean, in the comic book, he got it 20 times worse, but he still, he was. It was pretty rough on him. I mean, he kept his little girl who was a zombie type. He kept heads in fish tanks. Things like that. We've seen this level of gore in this show before. I really believe that. I'm sorry, Adam. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just gonna agree with you. But the thing is between like the governor, there is a level of just craziness that the governor has that. You see that and you're just like, man, and it's not the heads that got me. It's the fact that he kept his little girl in a cage with a hood over her head, and he brought her out and like comb her hair, and like chunks of her hair would come out. I mean, that's just screwed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that doesn't even hold a candle to what Negan is.
I mean, how?
I mean, because it takes it to another level.
Negan doesn't have the craziness. He is not. You can blame, almost insanity on the governor, and I think that's what I assume what you're trying to get at there, Adam, is the fact that he doesn't hold a candle to Negan because Negan. I don't want to say Negan is level-headed. He's a smart man. He's calculating. He doesn't have insanity to fall back on or blame for his actions.
Okay.
And that's what makes it that much more darker.
That's
in my opinion.
That's exact. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Because everything he does is on purpose. Like you had the governor who was somewhat of a level-headed guy before, and here's no spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, but before Michonne ran her sword through his little girl's face, I mean that's he just like snapped, and he went outside and just like shot that guy in the face and walked back inside, didn't even think twice about it, so you thought, okay, this guy snapped. With Negan, there's no snappage.
No,
he's just always been that way.
It's a brand new world, as he says, and Negan's the guy to welcome all of us into this new world. It should be the humans versus the zombies in a perfect. Well, I say perfect, but in any other zombie movie that you see, that's usually what it is.
Yeah,
and this
I get that.
This is like human on human crime.
Right.
So I think that's what kind of, I don't want to say turns me off, but it's like that's what kind of made me feel ill. And the fact that Glenn looks at Maggie and says, "I'll find you."
Mm-hmm. Well, we look at the love between Abraham and Sasha. Am I right in saying that? I can't remember the character's name. That's
Sasha is yeah, that's her name.
Yeah. So we look at that. I mean, it's it's not fair to forget that dude had his rings bashed in too.
Yeah, I agree.
And he was in love, and they were in love. So what's the difference? I mean, we're but that being said, I've heard people compare this to things that are happening around us every day, and I get it. I'm not. Do I fault anybody from wanting that and not wanting that on their TV? Absolutely not. That is your choice. And if you feel that is a negative influence in your life, then by all means, get rid of it.
Oh yeah, they have the option.
Yeah, they have the option. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, get rid of it. But I've heard, people, more than one person has compared this to, terrorist activities and,
oh, come on.
And things like that. And, I just think for a show that we realize that it has been said in the comic book and it has been said in the show that the Walking Dead are not the zombies in this show, in this storyline, in this comic book. The Walking Dead are the people that are trying to live their life in this because they're dead and they just don't know it yet. This is not, this is once this, I hate to say this, but if this were to really happen and society breaks down, there are people out there that are going to act like this, that would jump at this at the chance to do this. Not saying that. I guess what I'm saying is, for a show that has made a habit out of showing this much gore and violence and stuff like that, it seems your point seems almost moot when you bring it up after a loved character dies. Are you angry because the character died, or are you angry because this is too far? Or is it too far because somebody who, the character was in love, that you like the character, that he's been there for 7 years. He's been a character that you have clung to for 7 years. Are you angry and done with the show because he died, or you really seriously think that enough is enough? If it's been a ticking time bomb for you to say, okay, I have to be done with this show, I can completely understand it. But if it's a knee-jerk reaction to a character dying, because there are shows that I'm sure are much worse. I've not kept up with it since season 1, but I'm sure Game of Thrones is a much more jacked up show than this one on different levels. Breaking Bad showed people smoking meth on a weekly basis, and coming from someone who knows people with drug habits, who are struggling with that in their life. It didn't quote unquote trigger me or anything. It just, I know that happens, and I know that this is a TV show. This is not a real life thing. If it offended me, I know that I have a remote control and I can turn it off. I don't have to be a social media warrior and and compare it to other things. It's just one of those things where I think if it offended me, I will turn it off, and I won't have to tell everybody that I turned it off. If someone asks me, "Hey, you keeping up with The Walking Dead? Or are you keeping up with Game of Thrones?" Nah, it got a little too rough for me, so I turned it off.
Perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable too.
It's what I mean. If it's one of those things where it's been building up, that's fine. But there are shows and movies that are much more graphic in different areas, and the same area that nobody really talks about that they absolutely love. True Blood was one of them.
True Blood was pretty bad too. Yeah,
it was pretty rough on the sex part. From what I understand, I never watched it. Never interested me. I never wanted to watch it. Game of Thrones. The Red Wedding, for goodness sakes. There was blood everywhere.
Yeah, but we're talking two different networks, too. HBO.
Are we really there?
Excuse me. HBO versus AMC.
Right.
HBO is going to take it to that level. True Blood was HBO, right? Or was that Showtime? I can't remember.
It's
okay,
HBO.
Okay.
But AMC is one of those networks that is known for taking it almost to that level.
It's The Walking Dead. Now, as for people, I saw your article that you posted about taking it too far. The only thing that I can't say that the gore or anything like that was too far. I really don't, and I can't say that I read the article. I just saw the headline. So, did they specifically cite it was because people were so upset because it was Glenn, or
no? That's just what I'm picking up on.
Okay,
on some people, not everybody. People have legitimate reasons for not wanting to watch it anymore, and I get that. I'm not faulting anybody for not watching it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there are reasons being thrown out there that to me are a little less than legitimate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I'm not taking up for the show or anything. I'm just saying I mean, what did you expect?
Well, I knew what was going. I mean,
Yeah,
we all knew what was going to happen just because we had read the comic.
Well, no, I mean, you've got you've got a world where you have to kill people that you know and don't know for a second time by shooting them in the head, and then all of a sudden, this psychopath, you could tell he's a psychopath, steps out of a vehicle with a barbed wire baseball bat and a grin, and it shows him smacking somebody over the head with it. You don't know who. But yet, when it actually happens, they're like, "Oh no, too far." You've got a barbed wire baseball bat wielding psychopath tyrant, and you say, "Oh no, it's just too far this time." You had to guess that this was going to happen. Now, like I said, if you just turn the channel and say, "Ooh, that was a little too rough," I think I'm done with it. I'm okay with that. I don't know what I'm saying. I guess I'm just a little frustrated, and people, being surprised at this.
Let me just interject here real quick, and this is coming from somebody who's literally on, getting ready to start season 4. I'm way behind, so there's a lot of stuff that you guys are talking about that I don't really get yet, But my question is, why now? Why now do people all of a sudden?
I guess that's my question too. Yeah,
it's like this kind of stuff has been happening since day one. Literally, I just watched an episode the other day where Daryl and his brother finally shows back up from the governor.
Yondu
Yondu.
Yondu. Yeah, he plays Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy. Go ahead.
Yes.
That joke.
But anyway, so like they're just kind of scavenging, and there's these zombies, and all of a sudden, just a boot comes down on a zombie's face, and the whole thing just cracks open, and there's blood everywhere, and a crack. I mean, this has been happening for 7 freaking years. Why all of a sudden are you like, I can't take it? This is just too much for me. I mean, this stuff has been happening. Like they've been shoving objects through zombies' faces for 7 years. They've been cracking them over the head. I mean, they've been cutting off limbs. I mean, literally, they pull the arms off these zombies. They just rip them off like chicken bones. It's like
we also witnessed the death of Lori, which was a pretty pretty grisly thing in itself. We didn't
the baby out of her,
but they had to cut a baby out of her.
Exactly.
And then we go back and you see this engorged zombie with a bloody mess next to it. You're like, holy crap! Yes. He ate all of Lori. He ate all of her.
Yeah, I agree. And that right there, and that's a good point. That scene right there is why I stopped watching it the first time, because my wife was pregnant and it was a little too close to home, and I was like, I can't sit through this right now, So I went literally 3 years without watching another episode, and I just got back into it. I don't know, the past couple of months, because I wanted to be at least caught up by the time Negan came around, But this past week, too many people have. I mean, literally, I'm not kidding. I can't tell you how ticked off I was about.
Well, this happened like 5 minutes after the episode, though. This guy literally said, "Rip, rest in peace." Yeah, R.I.P. Glenn, R.I.P. Abraham. I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah, like he didn't say, "Hey, spoilers, space." He just put R.I.P. Glenn. And like, if you don't know about Walking Dead, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, did you lose a friend? I'm so sorry." Which I almost commented on it, but I told Ronnie, I was like, I gotta step back, because I'm gonna say something to this guy that I'm gonna regret tomorrow. Well, I'm gonna say something to this guy that I'm gonna regret. It may not be tomorrow or the next day or even the next day, but I'm gonna regret this eventually.
What we saw here was probably, I don't know if we will ever see something like this again, when it comes to a series that left on a cliffhanger, and then the first episode, everybody took to social media. There was like 2 or 3 types of people. There was the one guy who thought he'd be funny and throw out a different person and say rest in peace, because I had that happen. Actually, the first close to spoiler that I saw was some guy on my feed who I think he put "Rest in peace, Daryl."
Yeah.
I was like,
sorry, that's not
and
funny.
then,
It's funny.
well, I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Nobody else had said specifically who it was. And this is what probably taught a lot of people that social media blackout is going to be important if you want to survive any potential spoilers. The other guy was the guy that, the other type of guy was the guy that actually spoiled it and said, well, just like your guy there, gave the 2 away, which, by the way, Abraham was a surprise to me.
Yeah, Abraham was a total.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guessed him, last season, but it still was a shock.
Yeah,
like, holy crap, they went through with it.
Well, they did a brilliant job, I think, understanding that spoilers are part of what happens with this show.
Yeah.
So, when everybody was ramping up for the premiere of this episode and everybody had theories going here and going there, and of course those who read the comic were expecting Glenn to get it, and then Abraham gets it, and you're like, oh wow, okay, well, yeah, crap, well, okay, well, all right, that one, I didn't expect it. And then and then they throw it, oh, guess what, just like you said, they flip it and it's Glenn. So yeah. Somebody out there decided that it'd be fun to go ahead and spoil that crap for everybody. And then, of course, the third type of person is the guy who isn't saying anything at all, which is the good guy. I want to thank every single one of those people out there that did not decide to do anything to try and throw you off track and be funny, or to go ahead and outright spoil it.
Right.
But yeah, there's, it was. I probably, after I saw that first guy mention something about Daryl, I saw people light his Facebook post up. Yeah, I mean, it was lit up. People were like, "Oh,
I don't doubt it. Why would you do this?
Why would you do that? Why do I need to watch it now?" And he's like, he takes back. He pipes, "Wah." He said,
"You're kidding me."
Well, and then it becomes a political argument, which was hilarious. He called him a Republican, and it's just like a Republican to do something like that. And I was like,
"Oh, get out of here!
This is a joke, right? How did this turn into this?" But anyway, so then I saw somebody, it was a day or so after, somebody posted a picture of Glenn in the makeup.
Oh no, yeah.
And so it was an AMC picture that apparently was released, and I was like, okay, this is before I watched it, so I knew who was going to get it. But now, do we know what the appropriate time is for spoilers?
At least a week.
You're going to say at least a week.
Yeah.
I'm going to say now there is none.
Okay. Yeah, there is none. The appropriate time in your mind might be a week. Because that gives everybody. But I mean, I'm serious, man. 5 minutes after it happened, I saw that, and I threw my phone across the room.
The most anticipated season premiere of any show ever, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And within 5 minutes, we knew what was going. We knew what happened. And I'm telling you right now, if you gripe about spoilers, okay, this is the perfect example as to why nobody's going to listen to you anyway. So be smart. Don't even get on Facebook. And I know that's tough to do, but
Dave G-Pod says 48 hours.
48 hours?
Yeah.
I mean,
I can go with that.
I could go with 48 hours too, but nobody else is listening to us. Yeah. There are people, there's people that are going to follow that code, but I'll tell you right now, there's going to be a lot less that do after this. There's going to be a lot less that do. There's going to be spoilers all over the place, because what repercussions are there other than you're just being a D-bag?
My foot in your butt.
It'd be nice to go around and punch people in the face that do it, but it's just not going to happen.
I'm pretty sure that's the opposite of nice. But yeah, okay. So,
block them. Yeah, good call.
My thing is this, though. I mean, spoilers and all that aside, Dave, block him. That's actually very good call.
Agreed.
I mean, spoilers are up to you, really. I mean, to be honest with you, my code is like I try not to spoil. I mean, shoot, there's still stuff I don't try not to spoil now that's like 10 years old. But at this point, I'm like, you just need to get over it if you haven't seen it by now. But I try to wait at least a week on here. Try to, but sometimes most of the time we don't. But it's because it's hard, especially when you're running a podcast and you want to talk about things. But my thing is this, in my opinion, the show, when it aired, the minute it aired, I mean, you could say it went too far. With the killing and the craziness and all that, I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I just don't want to. I don't want to compare it to things that are actually happening in our lives now, happening around the world. I don't want to compare it to anything like that. So, if you feel that it's gone too far, then absolutely, by all means, turn that sucker off. It's another thing to say. Now they've gone too far because they killed my favorite character. If you believe that the violence is too much, then turn it off. But if you believe that because it's your favorite character, then you just need to get a grip. It's a TV show. I can tell that it's for entertainment, and if you believe that that's not entertainment, then you have stuck along with this show for way too long.
Yeah, that's my argument. That's my argument. It's like, come on, if it's one of those things that this is finally, if this was like the last straw for you, awesome. But why did you? I mean, don't complain about it. Right? Don't complain about it, because it's like you've sat through it and you've seen everything up until this point. And none of that. You can't tell me that none of that was affected you. Now that's another thing, is that if this show is one of those things where you sit through it and it starts affecting you, by all means turn it off. Like I can't. It's like, to me, it's like Criminal Minds. If you ever watch Criminal Minds, you can't go on a steady diet of Criminal Minds, man. That will take you to a dark place, and it's hard to get out of. So you stop watching Criminal Minds. Same thing with this. If this is the one that broke the camel's back, stop watching it. But don't jump on the bandwagon and start saying, oh, it was torture porn, or it was this was too far or whatever. I'm like, come on, they've been doing this to zombies for literally the last 7 years.
We watched a man, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Jesse. I'm so
go
sorry.
ahead, man.
We watched a man. We watched Morgan kill his own wife. With a rifle.
Yeah.
So if this is too far, then you should have said that that when that happened, or when the zombie ate Lori, or any other the 16,000 things that has happened in the 7 years. But like I said, I'm not faulting anyone for not following it anymore. I'm just saying, is it really, it's a horror show. It is. I mean, we're talking about horror movies. We're talking about Halloween. This is a horror show. You're going to see some crap.
Uh-huh.
Dave G. Pod, the zombies are already dead, but they were people too.
So Soylent Green. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Soylent Green is people. So I've harped on that long enough. I mean, there wasn't many differences, to be honest with you, between the comic book number 100. I mean, there was one major difference, but there wasn't that many differences between issue 100 and this episode. I mean, Negan's dialogue came right out of the comic book when he was, when he's doing the deed. it was just as shocking this time around as it was when you read issue 100. It's one of those things where Maggie was pregnant. Maggie is pregnant.
Whoa. Maggie's pregnant?
Dude. Plug your ears.
Oh,
I figured you knew.
No, I'm on.
Yeah, you sure are.
His internet couldn't keep up with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fine. Glenn and Maggie are together, and I kind of figured that was going to happen, so it really wasn't much of a spoiler. I kind of figured it was going to happen. Now, let me ask you something about this, and this is kind of to trail away from the subject we're talking about now, but it's on the same subject. Are the characters in the comic book are they have different names?
Some of them are dead, and some of them aren't.
Okay,
let's put it that way. Andrea is still alive in the comic book.
Yeah,
and
she's
married to Rick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, that's so weird. After seeing the show and then talking about the comic book, that is weird.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's got their name changed, as far as I know. Obviously, Daryl is not a fixture in the comic, by the way.
Yeah, Daryl is not in the comic books whatsoever
at all.
Okay, because I'm thinking about starting the comic books and just kind of, I say starting the comic books.
Don't think about it, just do it.
Oh, they're worth your time.
Well, I'm thinking about starting them and watching them side by side. So it's like I'll watch the episode and then try to read.
They're two completely different things.
Are they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah,
we just talked about how it's word for word out of 100, but
which was a shock.
All the events that lead up to 100, it's going to seem like stuff is flying by for you in the comic compared to the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they spend 3 issues on the farm.
Yeah.
And that's all one season.
Yeah.
So stuff flies by. There's a lot of extra stuff that happens in the issues that don't make it to the show that are it's tremendous. It's good stuff.
Absolutely.
Something we didn't talk about yet is the fact that the number one show on TV is The Walking Dead. It's a horror genre.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's the number one by far. I think it made something like 50 million or 50. I don't know if it was with a B or an M. I don't know if it's one of those, but it's like 50 million. And then the next show below it was like 24 million.
Yeah, it's 50 million viewers.
Yeah, I mean it was
which is unheard of
by far on network, not on network television, on cable television. Usually you get that kind of stuff on network television because it's free. You can get it over the air if you want, but this is something you pay for. So and to me that's I don't know if that's indicative of the society we live in or not, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely not. I mean, you have to buy a certain package to get AMC. But it's not like a premium network, not like HBO or Stars or anything. So it's kind of like in between there. So it's
maybe like your ESPN channel or something. Yeah.
So it's really unheard of because it's a zombie show.
Right.
People are invested in this and. It's not all about the zombies. It's not always going to be about the zombies.
No, it's about the human struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And part of that human struggle is dealing with people who think, people who are despots and who are tyrants and things like that. And it's going to, it happens every day. Absolutely. And they're not making light of that, but you can't think that in a society like that or a lack of society that, that this is probably going to happen, So they're, and he's staying true to his character and they're staying true to the actual storyline that they have set up. And they're not, there's a element of shock value to it, but it's not going, I don't think they're doing it all for shock. This is a legitimate, they're going to advance the storyline by ridding the world of these two beloved characters.
I want to ask a quick question, and we can move on to close and whatever you want to do here. Now, future spoilers. So anybody out there that doesn't want to understand what happens after Negan and after this episode, after issue 100 in the comic. Now, I've only read up to, I think, like 130, I think. So let me ask you here, Ronnie, do you think that they're going to follow suit with Negan like they did in the comic? Now, have you read up to much after the
I'm current.
Okay.
This is one of the few books that I have followed, that I buy single issues of.
So, when I last left the whole thing, Negan was a prisoner of Rick's. Okay, so they had all-out war had happened. Rick had brought Negan in as a prisoner, was actually brought him into the hospital and was healing him. Not the hospital, but the doctor was healing him. So they kept him alive.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that's going to be how they do it in the show?
That's a really good question, because Negan is a big. They have the Whisper War.
Yes, I remember you talking about that. Yeah,
and if this isn't a spoiler, but the Whisperers are another group of people who actually wear the skin of the dead and walk among them, and they whisper, and nobody shows any emotion or anything like that. He is just too good of an actor and too good of a character to get rid of that easily. So yes, I think what they're going to do is I hopefully they're going to keep him around. And I don't think that they're going to get rid of him after the whole all-out war, with Negan.
Okay. All right. I will put forth my theory. And this is just me going, because we know the book doesn't follow the show, right? Vice versa. I think that I don't know if Sasha will be involved. I imagine she will, and Maggie will be involved in some way.
Oh yeah,
and they will exact their revenge on Negan, and he will die at the hands of them.
Okay.
There's my theory.
That's a great theory.
I mean, he killed two people that were the significant others of them, and I think in this day and age, of course, we the powerful woman hero is out there, Wonder Woman, all this. They are going to turn those ladies loose on Negan, who is at this moment in time. Episode 2 hasn't even hit. But at this moment in time, Negan is the baddest villain, the worst villain I've ever seen. Like he's unfathomable. If that's unfathomable, I'm putting an N in there.
Yeah,
unfathomable.
He's that.
He as a villain. I mean, this is the guy that's in any other TV show. I think he surpasses. In lengths of villainy right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So to see these two ladies take him out, I think that's what's going to happen. There's my 2 cents. Adam, do you want to shoot a theory? I mean, you ain't even up to date.
I don't even want to start to. I mean, it's because as far as I'm concerned, my greatest theory was eventually Maggie's going to get pregnant. Like that was something that I thought about. I'm not even kidding. Like I thought about.
Hey, you were right.
You, sir, are right.
You are absolutely correct. Well, I mean, those are our theories. Wow, Dave G Pie, you are awesome.
What do we get?
I think Eugene grows his mullet back and starts a clogging club with Negan.
Oh, that is I'd say that ranks
a clogging
in the top
club and leaves
theories.
Negan alone. Yeah, and it leaves Negan alone.
All right. I'd like to see it with Negan. That'd be something else.
That would be, yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to call it a night on that one. Thank you, Dave, for sticking around with us. You were awesome as always. If anybody else is out there listening or watching or whatever you're doing, you guys are fantastic, and we love you for it. Please reach out to us at on our website, on at Screaming Boy PR on Twitter, Screaming Boy Podcast on Instagram. Just info at screamingboy.com. Please reach out to us, and if you have a favorite movie that we may have overlooked, or if you have a favorite Halloween tradition, please let us know about it. And Dave G Pie, adios. Thank you again. You're amazing. Please go on Twitter and Instagram and follow at Dave G Pie, and follow his other Twitter, G Pie at the Movies. He does quick spoiler free movie reviews, and they are really fantastic. Jesse, hit us up, man. Tell us what's going on in your life and in your neck of the woods.
Oh, besides being grumpy about having to go,
besides Papa Starch.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the Rattlich Broadcasting Network, I do a show called Source Material. It's about comics. Ronnie Adams usually joins me over there, and we just talk about, pick a story arc, and we discuss it. And just recently, our last show that we did was Batman Hush, along with you, Ronnie Adams. It was me, you, and Teasley. Broke it up into 3 small little chunks there for you. So if you're interested, go back in the Rattlich and Broadcast. We're on iTunes, so you can find us. Just find Rattlich and Broadcasting Network on there and subscribe. Upcoming the 31st will be me and Gavin Napier talking about Witch Doctor. So if you guys are interested in a 4-issue Image comic, go check that out. That'll be dropping this coming Monday. We just did a Metal Hammer of Doom. It's Halloween, folks. I want to go ahead and plug this, okay? Because I don't normally plug the Metal Hammer of Doom when I'm on here, but I am now pretty much a permanent fixture over there. And last week, we did a Metal Hammer of Doom on an album by the band Lordi, Lordi. Okay?
Believe it or not, I've heard of them.
You have?
Yeah.
I've heard of them as well.
The newest album that dropped this year, okay, the album is called Monstereophonic. Okay, these guys dress up like zombies, demons, whatever. They have apparently a tremendous theatrical feel on stage. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the most recent album is split into 2. It's 14 songs, 7 and 7. All right, first 7 are kind of like just regular old songs you'd hear on an album by Lordi, goofy stuff.
Yeah.
I think the first track is I Want to Go Slaughter He-Man. Hey, that's some good Lordi stuff right there. And then the second half has to be the absolute best story I've ever heard told, at least this year, if not in the last couple years, by a band. Now, they took I think 6 songs and told a story about a vampire, a she-wolf, a witch, and her son, the zombie, who have all come together in this house, and they call themselves the Demonarchy. But there's tension amongst the ranks, and everything starts to fall apart, and they turn on each other. But it's 6 songs. It's not overly it's metal, but it's something I could play for my kids, and I'd feel okay about it.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually probably some of the best stuff for if you're in a Halloween mood. Number one, if you can get your hands on that album, or if you got Spotify or even YouTube, you can find it on YouTube. I absolutely 100% suggest listening to it, because the story that is told is phenomenal. And if you want to go check out the episode of Metal Hammer of Doom that aired last Wednesday, so not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, on the Rattlich and Broadcasting Network. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there before my voice decides to give out on me. Thank you guys for having me on here.
Hey, dude, you're always, you're a permanent fixture here at Screaming Boy. So you kind of glossed over how I heard of them, though.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
You told me about them by announcing their. I want to
go slaughter
He-Man.
Yeah,
and hang out with Beastman or whatever the rest of that is.
Oh, it's great. It's great stuff.
I was like, nobody wants to hang out with Beastman. Nobody wants to be Beastman, not even Beastman.
Oh man.
I mean Moss Man. So, Adam, tell us what's going on in your life.
It's Halloween, man. So that's pretty much all that I'm going for right now. If you want to get a hold of me, you can find me at Adam is a Nerd on Twitter, or you can always hit me up on Facebook.
Cool. As always, the show, Twitter, Screaming Boy PR, Instagram, Screaming Boy Productions, or Screaming Boy Podcast. Lord. On Instagram, it's Screaming Boy Podcast. On Facebook, you just go in and look up Screaming Boy Podcast, www.screamingboy.com. info@screamingboy.com if you want to email us. We're on Stitcher, we're on TuneIn, and of course iTunes and the Radulation Broadcasting Network. You can go on any of these places and find us. Please click the 5 stars. Go on, leave us tell us how much you love us, because we want to hear it, and that would make our day, and we are waiting for it. Please do it. But I'm begging for reviews. And guys, we thank you. Of course, look at our other videos and other things on YouTube as well. So with that, we're going to say, have a safe and happy Halloween, boys and ghouls. We're out.
Oh, jeez.